Hello, how are you? Hopefully you're doing well. Um, I got stuff I need to get to, but I want to bang this hour out, keep trucking on the book, get the reading going, and then I'm going to do an Orby report after I'm done. So, usual 2 videos coming right up. Section 4, this will be the 4th spin of this book, Orion's Belts. Yeah. Yeah, so last left off talking about growing the family and self-replacement, which actually talking about that on the Echoes of New Eden podcast inspired Gromeyer to go and make a video about venture mining in Ethereum Reach and other like high level areas. And he didn't really talk about the lower level ventures like the Venture 1, Venture 2. Venture trainers are trash, but they're delightful trash. They're good for memes. Um, he mainly focused on the 3, 4, and covert ops, which like that's the top end. It was a great video. Highly recommend it. I'll talk more about that in the actual Orby report. But this section is related because nobody is doing industry right now for free to play. Like the free to play industry game is completely open. The niche is unexploited. It's how I made enough Plex to pay for the last couple months of Omega. I've got another month's worth of Omega in the tank, but that uses some of the leftover R from the Concord Pass. I've been spending a little bit of money on the Concord Pass every month, which feels okay. It's not like the subscription thing because I was doing the alpha content right in this book, and I'm going to be going back to that because Omega Life is kind of easy. Yeah, I seem to be drifting into Orby report instead of reading. So, finished growing the family last time. I'm picking up this time. Industry is not dead. Hearts with relentless habits of foolish dancing by the edge of a cliff. Every once in a blue moon by Alka, and it's spelled A!K-A, Ika. I'm not really sure. Alka or Ika, however that's pronounced, but every once in a blue moon is the song. A common complaint on the fora is that industry is a solved problem. Folks claim it is dead. Perhaps their perspective makes it so. There are plenty of things that are dead to some, but virile, bodacious, and vibrant to others. Just ask Oscar the Grouch. Whole swaths of the market are empty or stand still with 2 or 3 items on the shelf and nobody buying. If it ain't expensive or easily provided, there is little interest in procuring or providing it. The whales fled to the extremes. Except the parts used to make the goods are still available. Put a price low enough on anything at all, and it will move. Right now, there are all sorts of deals going on. Most players just can't see them. Corporations trade internally. Contracts flow. Items change hands through hangars. Where ships are moving, the resources required to create and support them are also moving. The market isn't cooked. It's just undergrown and underground. People outsource their fun to others instead of recognizing that building systems that build systems is fun. As an alpha, I must rely on these 2 hands to build the tools that allow me to play. The excess is nice. It produces profits, despite being what amounts to accidental overkill. For me, Eve Echoes has become Factorio, but slower. Logistics is an unusual interest. It's one folks rarely aim for, choosing instead the object as their focus rather than the means by which the object arose. It's easier to chase ISK. 1 number is more manageable than 7. Going the easy way leads to laziness. Power becomes the illusion of power, becomes predictable. There is no profit in serving foolish masters. Oligarchy leads to monopoly, leads to collapse. It's the same song. Every time. Industry isn't ever captured for long. The words change, but the song remains the same. Excuse me. Industry is punk. I lost the foreground watching the horizon. The Flood by Ben Kaplan. Music video for that song is friggin' amazing. Ben Kaplan is this furry fella. He's got this massive beard, and like his voice is really good. And the whole music video for that song, like there's the lyric videos that are out there, but the one in particular I'm talking about is Ben Kaplan wailing on a piano underwater, undersea, which like, holy smokes, to film that must have taken days of just like really uncomfortable. I can't stand being underwater for very long. It drives me nuts. But the end result, the actual music video itself and the lyrics, yeah, appropriate for the times and the situation going down. The water's rising. Not everybody can swim. It's wild. But yeah, I think in that particular part, it's I lost the foreground watching the horizon. Dun, 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 dun. Sorry. Anyway, industry is punk. Why not dance? There are so many overtuned aggressor ships yearning for targets. Who in their right mind would stand in the face of billion-esque badasses instead of joining the systems that fuel their claims over insecure spaces? Counterculture is naturally inconvenient. Always has been, always will be. Statements require effort. This is especially true for art. Dancing is the ultimate expression of effort without purpose beyond the expression of sympathetic effort. This is metaphorically significant. Not all dancing is moving to music. Sometimes it's fighting. Sometimes it's just breathing. Building and selling below cost is an injection of value necessary for the organizational growth of a species. Wasting time and effort is good. It's childlike. Those young punks know what they're about. The kids will be all right. There is so much unclaimed and abandoned space because efficiency has become the guiding demos for so many. It's really easy to produce baseline goods. Selling at or above cost is really hard. It's unnecessary to sell at or above cost. Selling below cost while buying above interest is the pumping heart of capital in motion. I didn't repeat this in the book, but I want to repeat it here. Selling below cost while buying above interest is the pumping heart of capital in motion. When cruelty is common, kindness is rebellion. By valuing trash above what others say it's worth, I have a steady supply of new and used items. By selling well below what they cost to produce, I have a steady return to use as supplemental income in their production. The industrial sector in Eve Echoes has so many unexploited niches. Folks looking for big shiny returns are missing bigger returns by chasing big shiny toys. Folks forget shock therapy can come from within. For those not in the know, shock therapy is a slang term for the means of economic warfare where a market is flooded and strangled in turns. This is primarily done through the use of sanctions and comparative advantages. Free services are the new means by which internet markets have obliterated global cultures. That's a whole book in its own right. In Eve Echoes, fear has frozen prices just above at cost. Fear of loss has produced pure loss. Any goods that aren't moving are economically non-existent. If the velocity of money becomes zero, it's effectively no longer a currency. Meanwhile, alpha life is thriving. Consider another angle. For an omega, the cost of doing business is purely time and effort. They can produce as many minerals or materials as they need with only time and effort. For an alpha, there is only direct access to minerals. There are sources of advantage available in that arena to be discussed in mining, but alphas economically fight with one hand tied behind their backs. It's glorious. Punk is not dead, caught in a mosh by anthrax. Let's get this pit rolling. Since alphas do not have every means of production out there, they are required to hustle if they intend to make a profit on the market. At time of writing, most goods are priced based on the accepted values of their components on the market. This is logical. This is straightforward. This is wrong. Commerce is a kind of alchemy. Transmuting goods and services into desired goods and services is play. Language is, in a sense, a game too. The words are the currency. The exchange is the alchemy. What you buy and sell says a lot. It's cute that people think cost is the floor in any market while living paycheck to paycheck with credit cards on the side. What you make is yours to sort. Nobody can tell you what to value it at unless you allow them to. Scarcity mindset leads to cost, constrain, benefit behavior, instead of a focus on utility and appreciation for the moment, something more rare than most realize. Costs have nothing to do with how something is valued. When you need a thing, you can ask for it by setting a price. Any price. The more you need, the higher the price. This is independent of how others value that thing. If you have excess, sell the goods below market price to get them moving. If you want more excess, set the price higher than expected. This creates pressure, making your buildup of stock in that object pay off over time. Folks have their own lacks and excesses. By setting both at once below what others value the object, you can set a current through the market for that object. The market is a dance. Remember your mosh etiquette. Go with the flow, but not always. Bumping is good. Grinding, not as much, but still good. Make contact for the pleasure of pain. Bruises are reminders of fun. Sometimes. Omegas can literally print lower level ships and provide them for alphas both inside and outside their corporations well below the cost to produce. That's a fun puzzle in its own right. Mass producing little ships and getting them out where the people could use them is not only a service, it's fun. It's even more fun if the costs involve time and effort. There is fun in a grind, but note when it feels like work. If it's in service to a goal, it is worth it. Grinding for grinding alone is self-harm. Why would you do that? There are good reasons. Competition of who can take the most stuff is one. Hoarding is another. The illusion of power is a great one. The reasons don't matter much when compared to the sensation. Means are ends in and of themselves. Mix it up if you find your dopamine pumps bottoming out. Better yet, delay gratification to get those dopamine pumps thirsting. It's better if you begged for it. Oftentimes, anticipation can be more enjoyable than satisfaction. It just takes attention. Awareness in this economy? Minerals and materials. Minerals and Materials. The song for this section is Sunshine, Lollipops, and Rainbows by Leslie Gore. And that's just silly. Here comes the math. Are you ready? Get ready. There are two prices for building things. There is what the alpha pays. There is what the omega pays. Alphas pay more, meaning they have more to play more. Alphas pay more, meaning they have to play more, and will. More fun happens as a result. Alpha players pay for both the minerals and materials with time and effort. One ingredient, minerals, plus one requirement, materials, equals two things to buy, steal, or attain in order to build a thing. They can sell minerals in order to buy materials, but they are unable to participate in the planetary exploitation of the landed gentry. Omega players get free stuff from planets. Most hoard it. It still costs time and effort, but a lot less than what an alpha must expend. Omegas have the means of production, comrade. They seized them. Joke's on them. What isn't used isn't valuable. Remember, though, commerce is transmutation. Alphas are allowed to specialize in the gameplay that produces what both players need. Omegas must split their attention if they intend to cash in on the free goodies. Take the venture as an example. All told, each little venture costs about 1 to 2 million ISK in stuff to build. Taxes on that stuff, plus time, cost of the blueprint, taxes, cost to get things cooking, opportunity cost in devoting the build slot, taxes, cost to move, cost to market, taxes, cost and comparative advantage over equipping, perceived competition, etc., etc. Spreadsheets are my third favorite game. The maths are fun to do in their own right, at first. I usually do them once, then wonder why I didn't spend that time writing or playing. No amount of anxiety will change the nature of the situation, but fear informs better decisions. Knowing the cost of a venture is helpful until it stops you from making actions. Do not let opportunity cost make moves for you. That is acting based on fear, not with desire or intention. What would you pay to have a venture in a given situation? It's a delightfully disposable ship until you run out and have to rely on a mining imicus or destroyer. That's the value. The number changes depending on the desire. The cost of minerals is relatively static, but the cost of planetary materials is vulnerable to manipulation. There is a constraint to the flow that allows profit, but this takes time and effort, specialization. When would a planetary interaction player want to flood the market and lower costs? Materials should be released into space at every opportunity. Free love. It sounds insane, but really, it is in the Omega player's benefit to entice as many alphas into their neighborhood as possible, if only to buy what they cannot steal. Whales should spray wildly into the sky, the product of their luxury. They want prey. They want friends. Content comes from commerce, comes from treats for humans. Friends are basically pets that don't usually wear collars, right? If there are a bunch of assets out there dammed up behind expected returns such as heavy water, and most of my stock is invested in higher grade fuel like plasmoids, why wouldn't I want to spring a leak in the blockage? ISK isn't the only art worth investing in. Players will be more than happy to take advantage of lesser profits to clear the way for bigger fish. They'll keep coming back. Industry and the markets are intimately linked, but most major Omega industrialists only think this is the case because their corporations can help them get what they need. The thought of stockpiling to achieve market effects doesn't usually cross their minds. Alphas, on the other hand, need to recognize abundance within their grasp. It's better for any indie to have standing orders for spread crops like spodumene, pyroxeres, or scordite than to try and gather them for themselves without a stripper. This steers competition away from cash or focus crops. It also allows alphas to farm the whales, reserving focus for gains and creativity more than mere profit will yield both. If Omegas post orders for planetary materials near where they have fountains, they can effectively pay people to deliver their goods for them. Yeah, losing some to people willing to trek to Jita will happen, but that's time the movers otherwise could have spent competing locally. It's a win based on the thief's willingness to waste time chasing ISK instead of content. But what about folks with no interest in comparing values between planetary outputs? Go down here. Hold on. Look at this cute cat. What about folks with no interest in comparing values between planetary outputs? Why passively seed free ISK with no intention of tapping that? Bait springs eternal. Telling friends where they can find free food is generally nice. Feeding boys and girls in need is cute. Loving strangers and letting go of what doesn't serve is cuter. If there is pleasure in service, burdens become blessings. Lose the neediness and become a fruiting tree to bring life to even the darkest corners of New Eden. Sharing forbidden fruit is a feature. Not a big deal unless you want it to be, ladies. Hate that joke. I shouldn't have put it in there, but it's there. For the rest of you, please try and make materials as costly as possible. This brings delightful challenges to us alphas who know what cash crops are worth gathering. So the trouble with Eve Echoes, it's a really big game. There's a lot of interacting parts, and I talk a bit about like ores in that chapter before even getting into mining. And there's different reasons to chase different ores. I'll get to that in that section, but the next one, I think I'm just going to talk directly about the different ores and like why you would want to chase any individual one. Because like there's a time for Veldspar, there's a time for Scordite, there's a time for Plagioclase. Hemorphite is always in season because Omegas have a hard time getting it. They are focused more on profits because they have easier access to the tools that will get them more ISK. And like nobody's really chasing Zydrine except for the folks who are trying to build stuff. And nobody's really building stuff at the lower levels. So Hemorphite is always in demand. Even when the markets are like slow on it, Hemorphite and Zydrine. That's like what industry needs more than any other mineral out there. Material-wise, it's a whole different animal because materials are based entirely on selection and passive play. So like they're a lot more static. They're not nearly as dynamic as the mid-range markets. Because there is no mid-range. Like there are technically, but I'm rambling, I'm sorry. Spread Them Sheets. God Killer by DYSMN. DYSMN is great. Love everything that they produce. They've got a line of Suicide Note songs that are epic. There's one that goes from like jazz piano into ska and like back again, which is friggin' wild. And I'm not sure, I don't think they use AI tools. Maybe they do. They've got a lot of digital stuff going on. Not that it matters. Excuse me. Spread Them Sheets. In ancient days, math was seen as a form of black magic. Numbers are an expression of some ineffable underlying substance the universe cannot fit neatly within. The boundaries within and between things are a matter of perspective. Numbers are spooky. Spreadsheets go with those ghosts like clean sheets go with ours. Ladies, hate that joke. The smallest translation between numeric values can project potential. No projection is perfectly accurate, as the map is not and cannot ever be the territory. There's potential in a little more information and becoming a little less wrong over time. The unexamined life isn't just worth less, it lasts less as well. I like to highlight the cells that take in values from the real world in green and blue. Red is reserved for pain points or unfavorable comparisons. I like to use simple math between cells to show each step in the translation process. I like to use data taken directly from the game to minimize user error. I love spreadsheets. That's just me though. There are artisans. I am an amateur. Still, my little sales figures and processing projections help projects along at a predictable pace. Should my playtime ever become predictable, I try not to repeat actions within the game. This makes my path a meandering one. On each ore's description is a nifty little number. This is what 100 of that ore translates to in minerals. Translating ore into ISK compared to ore into minerals into ISK is about as fundamental a comparison as it gets for an industry player. It's your homework, should you justify straying from one game to another, to create a translator of this nature. Have a place to put the prices for minerals, ore, and any other market inputs. Use that to calculate whatever helps you feel better informed about the outputs. Remember, no plan survives contact with the enemy. There are exceptions. There are always exceptions. Mining is generally measured in cycles. Translating the amount of time needed to gain an amount of ore desired felt good until I realized that all those hoops and figures meant nothing in the face of a sound heuristic. I will never actively count the cycles in the game. In fact, going through full cycles of a mining laser every time produces wasted time. No amount of anxiety will change the outcomes of my actions for the better. Heuristics are simple rules that, if followed, can lead to complex and emergent outcomes. They are especially fun to discover and refine. That's the whole of science, but with less pretty numbers. Learning good heuristics makes thinking less necessary and life far more pleasure-filled. Look for the minerals with the widest margin between buying and selling listings, and consider hunting them puppies for profit and pleasure. Look for the minerals needed to build stuff you like, and hunt for those. Look for smaller products sold in bulk for bigger multiplying effects from price differences. Look for bigger products for more consistent value over time. Limiting transportation limits ease of access. Find the niche that feels nicest for you and explore it. There is an eternal clash between subjective and objective. It spirals. Play with both as you please. One final example and one challenge. My favorite sheet calculates the value of a load of ore or fuel. In physics, work is equal to force over distance. It's encouraging to calculate loose descriptions for the value that exists in moving things from one location to another. I call that sheet What a Load, and challenge you to create a more useless tool that doesn't bear my name. You're gonna make me some. It Stings a Little, though, by Miki. There are an endless number of ways to quantify the qualitative. Lies are easier to make than truths. At the end of the day, Eve Echoes is about picking things up, putting things down, and touching things from a safe distance until good or bad things happen. The stories surrounding those functions are made up, and the points don't matter. If you moved it safely, it was an internal profit. If you organized it, it was an internal profit. If you named it, gamed it, tamed it, or can safely blame it for some problem or other, it was an internal profit. If you sold it, it's someone else's problem now. Alphas don't need contracts when they use the old PayPal trick of telling the person they're selling/giving the item to look for a specific number. I like repeating alternates like 6969 or 4343, but anything will work in a pinch. The corporations run internal sales at 80% of GETA price. You can do the same, but with anyone and everyone. If you're wealthy enough, turning your innie into an Audi is just a matter of course. Assets have mass. Moving a mountain is a lot simpler, one handful at a time, so try to keep up with your acquisitions by offloading. You'll find the task entertainingly difficult. Remember the middle path. Assets at the low end are easy to attain and so whale fodder. Assets at the high end are hard to attain and so fit the same boat. Those things at the middle slip the interest of those with over-specialized or over-generalized equipment, ladies. The middle possibility spaces are where the most slack is available to play with. Find your center and expand outward. Knowing where the middle is doesn't mean you must stay there forever. In fact, you couldn't if you tried. We breathe in expansions and contractions, push boundaries to grow the center once you find it, and you'll be surprised how quickly your capabilities expand. But do it with ISK and money and stuff. Last point, find yourself getting outbid, half the number of requested, and double the price to attract more individual sales. You have valuable variables to manipulate. Plus, you can set bounties on specific ship types this way. Set a buy and sell on an object, and you can create a current for others to carry. Yeah. You okay? Oh. Hello? No, it's mine. All right. Taxes aren't real. The song for this section is Chemical Burn by Overshield, which is a cover from Sonic 2, Chemical Plant Zone. Which, I love that song because it reminds me of... Dun, 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 dun. It sounds just like the opening to Bad Guy. I think it's Billie Eilish. And if I had the patience, I would love to do a fusion of those two, because Chemical Zone, dun 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 dun, and then Billie Eilish's dun 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 dun. Yeah. Ramble. At maximum skills for an alpha, taxes on a 1 million ISK purchase clock in at 180,000 ISK. That seems hefty, but it's a worthy investment. The more money lost from an environment, the more valuable the currency that remains. The effect is arguably negligible, but essential. What isn't lost can become cancerous and a burden on the economy that eventually causes its collapse. Guillotines tend to come into vogue after that point. Loss aversion sucks, but it keeps us alive well enough, at least until it kills us. You are only taxed for making moves. If you stop making moves to avoid taxes, you are missing opportunities. We remember negative experiences about 3 times more potently, varying individually of course, than positive experiences. Folks who are more loss averse than others tend to accrue wealth as a matter of course. This is why the center will not hold. What is best at conserving is worst at expanding, which leads to mimetic crystallization, fragility, and fracturing. Fear is the mind killer. Too much, and we become mechanical, predictable, and exploitable. Don't be afraid of taxes. It's just rent with extra steps. The wealthy will spend far more Skrilla avoiding taxes than they would have spent paying the taxes directly, and it's about as intelligent as buying a cow to avoid paying for milk. It's like taking up avoiding work as a full-time job. We have that already. It's called writing. Just kidding, of course. Writing isn't a real job. There's a reason artists starve for fun and profit. All business has a cost. We spend time. We don't think of the time we spend much. It's the only true currency, those damned current events, and even those moments strung along like pearls are an elusive construct of perception based on contingent changes in singular context. We spend life like we own it, but even existence is rented from eternity. Omnia governs from a height and depth none may rebel against. Still, it's fun to try. Are percentages really worth pissing and moaning about? They fall into the category of Zeno's arrow in terms of stopping power. I hereby dub the threat of taxation Zeno's paradox. Xenophobia is a joke. On that note, what is a government? Many folks believe all governments are evil. Many folks believe all governments are evil, not recognizing that an individual is not only the ultimate minority, it is a government unto itself, and a poor one at that. Some define governments as a perceived monopoly over violence with the intention of supporting life, liberty, and love within its associated population. It's me. Hi. I am some. For a government of one, this is where discipline comes in. Accepting burdens in support of a higher cause is how we grow, physically, mentally, spiritually. The governing body of a nation has a similar means, though their ends tend to get hijacked by fear over time. As a motive force, fear is powerful and sharp, but lacks the sustained power of love. Love is a secondary currency within and of time. If fear and hate are like the strong and weak forces in physics, love is gravity. Life, liberty, and love. Those are the purposes. Governments make the coins they tax. Your coinage is your attention. The US of A, as in has dollary dues. For smaller governments, corporations, companies, clubs, there are points, rewards programs, and membership statuses. Every organization wants to be a government when it grows up. That's part of the whole categorization mimetically necessary for organizing. Labels, boxes, purposeful myth-making are all a kind of governance, even if implicit. Render unto Caesar, bitches. Now for a parade of straw man arguments. There's little point trying to convince those whose identity relies on a specific state of mind, but we're going to do a teardown of anti-tax ideology lightning round anyway. Taxation is theft. This is only true if transactions are involuntary, at which point they are no longer transactions. The nations where taxation does not exist fail to collect seed corn utility from the currency they use. They're not the sorts of places where money means much in the face of immature power. Tyrants levy a 100% tax and prima noctis claims that they lack the bandwidth to employ effectively. They die screaming, often by their own hands. Taxation isn't theft, it's a usage fee. It's a transaction rent. It's a necessary good and the opposite of usury. Taxation is socialism. This is only true if the taxes are socially allocated. That doesn't happen well. Imagine the average person and remember that half the population is less responsible than them. As someone who is terribly average, this thought is both a comfort and a terror. While democracy is the least worst government out there, it's still a terrible idea to go full democracy. That game is pretty quickly twisted into tyranny. All it takes is someone to lead the blackjack and hookers party, and it's off to the racists. Races. Whatever. Taxation isn't socialism. Socialism is the collective ownership of a company or product. Collective shareholding is more socialism than tax policy, though it trends towards oligarchy. Taxation is the inflation release valve. The folks who make the money don't want to make too much, or it won't be worth as much. When there's too much of a currency out there being current, it becomes worth less than it could be. In a healthy economy, taxes are applied evenly. In a growing economy, the wealthy carry the bulk of the tax burden since they have the advantage of the Matthew principle in their favor. That is, power attracts more power, wealth attracts more wealth, lack attracts more lack, and so on. In an unhealthy economy, the wealthy pay less than the poor in taxes. This does not end well for anybody, but super bad things happen for the wealthy. They grow fat, dumb, and happy until hungrier folks scare them into suiciding one another out of windows. Taxation is not the inflation release valve. The fundamental utility of taxation is negligible if evenly applied, meaning taxes are not really worth anything except to those without them. For everyone else, they are an added weight that strengthens profit generation to a point of critical mass. Think of taxes like the cover at a club. The real members are the folks pouring the drinks. Once overcome, taxes provide cover for externalizing costs and undermining quality, which allows for up-and-coming competitors to hamstring tired old farts. Indie art and artifice is better because it's hungry. Necessity cannot be bought or substituted for. Those who are not taxed become targets. They'll offer bread and circuses, sure, but in the end, their need to show off paints them as perfect candidates for who to blame when disaster strikes. As much as those poor, wealthy fools would like to blame more obvious minorities, they forget they want to be the most obvious minority. It doesn't take a genius to realize the folks with the rare loot are probably going to get ganked eventually. Taxes are a bellwether for times to come. Think of taxes without malice. They're a social headwind. Tack well and prosper. Be bestilled and try not to look too juicy for the rest of the crew. If the winds ever grow too strong, don't worry. There is always the currency of service to default on. Love folks well, and the cost becomes the benefit. Kodama, I want my arm back. Look at this. Look at that cat. I'm trapped. Smug little cuss. Every feline thinks it's the most feline to ever feline. Kodama is the cattiest of the cats. Research and dismemberment. Photonic crystals are my playthings. Omniverse by Graydon Square. Hell of a rapper. Pretty much everything Graydon Square comes out with is like 5-head fun. I love them. The cost of wreckage determines the cost of blueprints. If you can supply your work and play with wrecks of a type you like, all the better. If you had fun killing the pixels to get the bits, then you were paid for in good times. Small ore wrecks, as an example, oscillate around a couple 100,000 ISK. Sometimes they reach over 500,000 ISK before marketeers release their reserves. The same wrecks that ventures drop are the wrecks required to research their blueprints. Research is a fancy way of saying reprocess, but there's no guaranteed success. Never listen to anyone who says never, but never trade a small wreck for a normal venture blueprint. You can buy them from the market at an order of magnitude below what a wreck is worth. Venture 2 and 3 blueprints are where things get more entertaining. See, those wreckages are a bit like lottery tickets. You can spend enough to assure a blueprint drops out the other end, or you can push your luck. Depending on how much data you have stocked up to fuel the gambling, sometimes pushing your luck is the better bet. Research is gambling. For higher level ships, you set the odds. Trust but verify and track the data over time. You don't need to guarantee success if you don't want to. For smaller blueprints, it's in your favor to shoot for around the middle. 2/3 for the Venture 2 ain't nothing to sneeze at. Feel free to track the odds over time to keep netties honest. It's a fun game in its own right. That's a fun game in its own right. I tried producing 30 Venture 2s at 1/3 odds, hoping for 10, but received only 8. Those blueprints were cooked up at a cost of 30 wrecks instead of producing 30 blueprints at a cost of 90 wrecks. I did the same experiment on Venture 2s at 2/3 and received 19 instead of the expected 20. This was relatively consistent at a cost of 60 wrecks compared to trading 30 blueprints for 90 wrecks. Those are the easy examples. It gets more tense and satisfying with higher tier blueprints on the line. Faction blueprints especially are a pain to pull, but they sell well. By minimizing costs and taking greater risks, you can comfortably sell blueprints with greater gains, or you can spend a little extra early to minimize risk. The middle path allows you to lean either way. It is possible to lay odds to make a career out of this minigame alone. Fast cash. In the factories and mills, the shipyards and mines, the workers' song by the longest johns. Due to the Matthew principle, the surest way to gain value is to have a already bunch of value. Wow, I did not edit this well enough. The surest way to gain value is to already have a bunch of value. This goes for anything. It's descriptive, not prescriptive, so upsets happen, and boy are they juicy. Have ISK if you want more, as in, save it, don't spend it. Have ships or whatever if you want more. In any arena of competition, there is an inherent and implicit advantage to the leader. Whatever value you hold, more will come. It can't be forced. Barring all that, if you want what everyone else has, do what everyone else does. Most players in EVE Echoes are PvE farmers. It's a proven path to ISK for those who want the grindset mindset to consume even their play. Finally, if you want to play like most of the market does, go to JITA and sell what you can lower than what other folks are selling it for. That'll bump your sale to the front of the line. Do not sell anything without considering the price folks are asking for. Low interest items are underpriced by an order of magnitude, sometimes even 2. People who can't wait are pretty easily exploitable. They buy high and sell low, and quickly does their money flow away. Easy come, easy go, you know? Slightly less fast is matching bets. That is, if you sell a resource at the same price as someone else, you're banking on that consensus becoming accepted. In cases like Tritanium, that's pretty well established at 2 ISK per. The more common the good, the more commonly accepted the pricing. Piling on to the market from a different ITC than JITA at the same price offers the benefit of convenience without a premium to whoever pays attention to their time. The fastest way to gain anything is to gamble for it. Theft is a time-honored tradition in New Eden. The markets do it every minute. The closer to free you can get, the more value in the transaction. Knowing when and where to be to promote the loot of others offers the greatest return on investment possible. A free ship can make billions by pirating the right whale corpse. These sorts of wins cost far more time and effort than the others, but the highs are pretty dang high. Feeding on the leavings of high-level PvE players is easy money, especially if those whales are feeling generous. In those cases, being a part of a whale's fleet shares the PvE profits. As an alpha player, these are your best bets for fast cash, and they're not great. You will always lose out being hasty. It makes waste, see? The easiest way to earn ish is to reduce risk for others. Slapping repair high slots on any ship with a red scanner will let you find farmers. In high security, you can even help them kill things with your drones. Did you think the ISK was for you? Helping others brings fringe benefits only. I would edit the hell out of that at this point. I need to clarify there. Ugh, gross. Giving rocks to the corporation gets them to those best equipped to sell them. Here's a secret. Such communism, if willing, or slavery, if unwilling, is the same objectification of self in different hats. It's a vague exchange of security for labor. Some folks need to belong so badly, they will erase themselves. On the flip side, some need to be insubordinate to a similar extreme. They'll never find labor for another, and so shrink and fade away. They'll never labor for another, and so shrink and fade away. That need for control leads to insecurity. That feeds into itself. Both extremes are deadly. One makes a zombie, the other makes a lost spirit. The passive rate is slow and steady, but being selective makes a world of difference. Both are looking for fast ISK, though they define the less fun F word differently. Gathering sugars for kids. A more varied diet will lead to better growth. If all you have is chasing money, don't worry, there will be more chasing coming. Minor Threat. 16 Tons by Tennessee Ernie Ford. You move 16 tons, what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't you call me 'cause I can't go. I sold my soul to the company store. As a science fiction concept, mining space rocks is pretty silly. It would be far more energy efficient to just grab the big old rocks, strap an automated tug to each, and send them meteorically back to a refinement node within some overarching logistics machine. No muss, no fuss, just nom rocks. That's not romantic. Space westerns require space prospectors, and income inequality metaphors need scrappy underdogs shifting through scraps and ore on the periphery of the universe. Eve Echoes is kinder in some ways to the folks who turn big rocks into little rocks into money. The Venture line is all an alpha has access to. The Venture line is enough. From Trainer to Venture 3, each can quickly replace itself with enough resources and know-how. These V sisters are surprisingly potent while being thankfully low cost. Ventures are more than enough to make a dent on the markets if you know what you're looking for. Then there's the weird stuff. Zydrine. You're looking for Zydrine as an alpha in Eve Echoes. At first glance, mining takes a lot of time and not a lot of attention to make happen. This makes it especially enticing as easy money. It is not the easiest ISK in the game, but it's certainly the most fulfilling. It's honest work. There are various levels of attention I might devote to the arts and crafts of war. Passive play is a bit like penny slots. Maybe I get rocks, maybe I get a kill mail. Either way, I get enough. Crawling through nihilist dead spaces in search of condensed ores is the most beneficial and requires just enough attention that I can get away with inputs between tasks at wage slavery work. My treat for completing work, writing, and or survival is to actively mine or otherwise engage in hostile locations. Killing is easy. But to kill is to die. Getting killed is guaranteed given enough time. Creating takes effort. They are two sides of the same crime. Creating the things necessary to kill is all over the moral spectrum. Killing rocks, however, is right in the sweet spot. They don't shoot back. All those stones do is give, and all we do is take. If Earth is mother, those belts present only ore chasms for plundering. The stuff of stories starts from such substances. The stuff of legends has roots in such substrates. All that, and they don't even complain. Folks go searching the galaxy for content, not realizing that if you sit still long enough, at just the right spot, it will come to you. What is especially fun is invading hostile territory and mining the rocks out from under them, or at least getting the locals to chase you hither and yon in a ship that costs less than a fraction of what theirs did. Mining is like fishing. It's easy to lose track of time if the piece finds you well. It's best to plan a period of time to devote to it, rather than a specific goal, unless time is of no object for you. In that case, if that's the case, what's it like being immortal? Rockstar fundamentals. Of all the dirt that we dug, I think my favorite was the mud. That one song by that one guy, which I can't find on YouTube anymore. I went looking for it knowing that, like, I love it. It's from, like, way back at the turn of the century. And it's seemingly lost, unless you know how to find that one guy. Sorry, cool. Unlike other high slot modules, mining lasers cook for a bit. You can activate and deactivate them to pull however much they've gathered at any time, but each activation costs a little bit of capacitor. It's not enough to run out anytime soon for any ship at time of writing, but worth noting in case NetEase decides to make algid optimizers of any use whatsoever. The full activation time for a mining laser is 1 cycle. Exceeding the amount of rock available within a cycle of the mining laser yields exactly 0 additional ore and is a waste of time. There is a secret mini-game in here. By deactivating the mining laser around where you think the cycle will run out of rock, you can shave time off of each cycle. Time it perfectly, and fireworks will shoot out. I lied. There are no fireworks, unless you bring your own. It's mere seconds, but perfect pulls excite efficiency fiends, and over the long run, make what is usually seen as a passive and boring experience something more actively participated in. Little changes add up over time. Ever hear of the butterfly effect? You don't need to play the timing game if you don't want to. Rock roasters will normally switch to the next target selected when their food runs out. If you mine for long enough, the game will turn this feature off to help prevent botting. Still, it's possible to go full passive and just let the little lasers do their thing while you listen to a podcast, book, or a show or something. Park and Point is setting up autopilot as a GTFO button with as little time to align as possible, but accelerating to 75% max speed still has to happen from a dead stop. When a ship's ore hold is full, any extra time spent sucking sweet minerals from stones is also worth noting. Can't stuff it more than will fit without a little bit of wiggle. This is why it's often worth it to drop a can. In your inventory, there is an option to jettison an item. This places it in a can at a point in space about 5 kilometers off of your location. They despawn anywhere from 2 to 6 hours after the cargo is jettisoned. Don't freak out unless it's time. Orbiting within 10 kilometers of a can will keep a small ship postured as defensively as possible. If the orbit is within the range of a mining laser, the limit becomes the volume of each can multiplied by the maximum number of cans. I think it's greater than 20, but who knows? Who cares? You are not alone. Get multiple dudes with sidearms circling the same can, You are not alone. Get multiple dudes with sidearms circling the same can, or they're playing with their own, each jerking ore from nowhere, and it's possible to outperform a Rorqual for a fraction of the cost. Gross. That sentence structure is gross. Don't be afraid to leave leftovers for the next person. If you love the locals, helping them is helping yourself. If you don't love the locals, leaving your name as a memento ain't shameful either. If you've bookmarked a safe location in the system, you can drop cans there to be extra careful. But most pirates want little things worth big profit. Ore is collectively about the opposite of that. If they're cruel, they will kill your can not long after killing you. If they are clever, they'll wait for you to come back. I won't be satisfied until some fucker comes in a mammoth and steals a can of rocks out from under me. Dead drops are useful in any scenario. Pirates could do this if it was about the money and not the message. Keep this technique in mind if ever you need to make a few trips. You are never really limited by your cargo bay size. You are only limited by an unwillingness to wiggle. So that section wasn't as clear as it could have been. Dead drops are where you drop a can out at some point in space. If you've got a bookmark in the middle of nowhere and you drop a can there, nobody's going to find it. It's yours. So like, it doesn't matter how small your ship is. You can move any number of objects so long as you move them within 2 to 6 hours. So let's say you kill a miner with a ton of rare ore. You could come back in a transport, like a probe, a small transport, load it up, move to the sun or some random planet, and then drop the ore off and just shuttle back and forth. The miner's not going to know where you went and hid the goods unless they come and find you and chase you to where you hid the goods. But if that location is in the middle of nowhere, like if you created a safe, and I talk about that elsewhere, there's nothing they can do. You can steal the profits from any poor miner, like, in total. Most pirates don't do that because it's not really about the profit for them. They don't need the ISK. It's more about the thrill of battle and, like, the rush that you get from killing. As far as I can tell, like people who fly Garmers have like no cargo space. They're not profitable vessels, but they're very good at killing. Which, you know, cool. What to hunt for? Young Lust by Pink Floyd. The lowest value minerals are titanium and pyrite, aka sugar and spice, aka salt and pepper, aka ice and fire, aka Bonnie and Clyde, aka Jesse and James, aka tits and whiskey, aka these are all made up names. Every construction uses them, but they're so common, nobody wants them. If miners were selective, these would be worth more, but alas, it's often easier for those in Null to just eat whatever is available than it is to actively seek specific ores. The highest value minerals are megasite and morphite. They're not only scarce, they are found in big, bulky ores. Whales thrive on this stuff thanks to distance and blockades as their main defenders. The biggest and fanciest toys need megasite and morphite to be built. So it's not really of any use whatsoever for an alpha to go hunting for them when there is more consistent ISK available at less risk. This is also why they're solid targets for devoted hunts. So I talk about this in the Orbi. I'm going to talk about this in the Orbi report when I record it later. But Crowmire focuses fire on the highest value objects, which good strategy, but not the best over the long run. Like it's great for devoted hunts, and I'll get to that. Losing low utility ore is trading a boring sale for a story, not that the rare stuff is ISK effective to pursue. Like hunting these rarer minerals, gas mining is great for cash crops. Omegas are the only characters with any use for space farts. Where there is C70, there are usually defenders. C50 is common enough and easy to gather, but there are ores out there that will yield better ISK returns. C60 is just right, but completely dependent on the markets. Stockpile it for a rainy day. There are exceptions. There are always exceptions. All of these tips are market dependent, but the heuristic of seeing which mineral is worth the most and which ore produces the most use, depending on what you want, is evergreen. Get as much of that ore as possible. If you're chasing ISK, first, don't go chasing ISK, but second, think about what is most useful for others. Hit that. Even if you go wrong, at least your heart was in the right place. When it comes to ores, the type is secondary to whether it's condensed or not. Condensed ore is worth 10 times whatever normal rock it might be. Keep an eye on the markets. There is almost always a comparative difference between common and condensed ores. Drives me crazy, but no, I'll rant about that later. People will spend billions in ISK to net fractional improvements from their base stats, but will completely ignore the 1,000% increase in value that comes from farming condensed ore. Nihilist dead spaces are plentiful. Swiss cheese has fewer holes than New Eden. I've only ever encountered a handful of other miners in them, and they all avoided me entirely. C spaces are safer than standard belts while yielding more than regional condensed locations ever could. Without competition, there is no need to be selective in these celestial holes. Om nom nom rocks. Get a blue scanner and come make millions. As an alpha, this is all the competitive edge you need to make a dent in the market. When passively mining, going wide and just hoovering up any condensed ore you find is a safe enough bet, but you miss out on higher returns from a focused effort. The best value over time for an alpha is Zydrine, followed by Noxium. Hemorphite, Crocite, and Jaspit are best for Zydrine in that order. Debatable, but that's an argument I would love every minute of, so come at me. Noxium is homework for you to figure out. Experimentation is the best approach. Here, as a life lived with curiosity is a life filled with joy. A hint on the Noxium conundrum: not all ores are the same bite-sized bundles of joy. While you're at it, consider some small spreadsheet work as extra credit. Calculating baseline ISK per cycle of a miner as a reference is neat, albeit discouraging for some aspirational types. Even a cursory comparison of ISK value for specific minerals can greatly inform where the best cash crops are. For the really aspirational, consider the density of goods within rocks, and you'll notice another strange and beautiful inversion in Eve Echo's design. There are a few odd incentives worth reiterating for newer players' consideration. The encounter system, missions, subsidizes certain assets. Veldspar, Pyrox Series, and Scordite are worth more to the game than to players, but there are limits to the rate at which these missions drop. They wouldn't need such limits with appropriate minimum travel distances for the scant rewards compared to other ISK exchanges, but perhaps the goal isn't to get folks mining for the man, so much as to whet the stony appetites. Buying the rocks and flipping them was easy ISK back when I was first starting out. I assume it's much the same these days. I went back and checked. It is. For the easiest ISK in the galaxy, reprocessing is pure value, even if Omegas have the edge. And we're at an hour. And we're on page 87 out of 278. Man. I read slow. I'm sorry. Well, I'm not sorry. If you want to get to the end faster, you can get the book and read it yourself. Whew. Thank you. I hope you have a good day.